Look, when I was growing up, I grew up in a context where I was in a suburb in New Jersey, and there wasn't terrible racial discrimination, as far as I knew at least. I grew up there till I was 18, I was a kid. And I didn't understand why we needed affirmative action. And I was against it at the time because I thought it was unjust. And now I'm against it for other reasons now because I think it's counterproductive because it reinforces some of those stereotypes. But the first part I was totally wrong about. Like, look, in our context, our class president happened to be black, Cyril Johnson, and I thought, well, look, I'm in the same town as Cyril, I'm in the same exact situation. You know, why in the world should he get an advantage in applying to schools, etc.? But what I didn't understand is that those were the 1980s, and we were only about 20 years removed from black people being lynched in the South. Everybody didn't live in my context. They lived in a completely different context, where being black was an enormous disadvantage, and it wasn't from 150 years ago, it was from at most a generation ago. And you think it got solved overnight through one generation, or now, when it's about 2 generations later? Well, if you think that, you're wrong, and I can show it to you in the numbers. So, the unemployment rate in January of 2013 was basically twice as high for blacks as it is for whites. Whites were at 7%, blacks at 13.8%. Now, that's a big, big number. And on a macro scale, you see, well, maybe the job opportunities are not the same if you're in 2 different races. And it's not necessarily because of racism. It could be that it's the legacy of racism that people started in such a hole that it's hard to climb out of that hole. So if you already have a dad who had a good job, you're a lot more likely to get a good job because he's going to look out for you. But if 2 generations ago, none of the people in your family were allowed to have good jobs, well, it's much harder for you to have a good job 2 generations later. So when it comes to income, the disparity is even greater. Look at this. Whites, individuals, now not families. Families are a little higher numbers in both categories. But white individuals make $29,401 on average in 2011. Blacks make only $18,357. Jesus, that is a gigantic difference. You really think it's a level playing field? You think that at most 2 generations was enough for all the blacks in this country to catch up to all the advantages that white people had? Do you know that white people get inheritance 5 times more than black people do, or 5 times more likely to get an inheritance than black folks do? I mean, that's one of 100 examples I can give you. So does that give you a little bit more of an advantage? Of course it does. Now, none of this means that you, as a white person, if you're watching this, are racist or are responsible for any of this. What we're trying to show you with the numbers here is that things might not be as hunky-dory as you think they are, right? That there is still a significant struggle in this country to get to a point of parity. Now, if you thought the income numbers were bad, wait till you get a load of the wealth numbers. Now, one of the things they keep telling us is that things have improved. And part of the reason for that is that it's true. We're not in 1965 anymore. There aren't colored water fountains. People don't flip out, by and large, if black people go into the same pool as white people, although sometimes we do stories about that too in modern day America. But overall, no, we've gotten much better on that. But do you know that between 1984 and 2009, the wealth gap between whites and blacks didn't get smaller. It actually got 3 times larger. So what happened to trickle-down economics? It trickled all over some of us. So in some ways, things have gotten worse. Now, to give you the raw numbers, this is amazing. Household net worth this is a Brandeis University study that just came out based on 2009 numbers. Look at that. Whites, $265,000. Household net worth, that's the money they have, not the income. Blacks, $28,500. That's close to a 10-to-1 disparity. Now, you really think it's a level playing field? Now, you can't think that. You just can't. You're kidding yourself if you think it's level. So, look, again, I think that affirmative action clearly has some upsides because there's still a lot of catching up to do. I think it also has a downside in that it reinforces those stereotypes, and I think those stereotypes are incredibly dangerous. But that's a separate conversation from at least recognizing the clear problem that we have in this country so that we could all work towards a constructive solution. That's the reality in America.